I appreciate it that you all are joining us today. And so I would like to say that I'm so grateful to our planning team. Jeannie Necessary from FNP and I attended a conference at Texas A&M in early February 2020. Was our last conference before the pandemic shut us down. And so we met and started working on this idea that we need to do a in-service training that on school gardening that would include everybody, 4-H, horticulture, FNP, everyone who deals with school gardening in IFAS. And we wanted it to be very inclusive. In the past, I think we've all have kind of gone into our silos and have done different trainings for each other in gardening and youth work with horticulture. But I really feel like it's time that we get together, and Jeannie did too, that we share resources, share education, and act more as a team, and hopefully even evaluate together in the future. So that's how the idea was born. I'm not going to say that it was born over beers. I think it was born more over the fantastic tacos that they served us in Texas. And Jeannie, did you want to say anything about that?
I just wanted to say that yes, I was it was the opportunity that we got in Texas was really fantastic, and got a good opportunity to connect. And I'm just really happy that everyone that is on the call today. Just appreciate all of you joining us today, because yes, we want to, even though the family nutrition program is part of Extension, which I get into in my presentation, of course, we are kind of a little bit different in some ways. So I'm happy that you all are here so that we can all kind of work together better and see some, I'll be presenting some opportunities that we've worked with other agents in other areas on. So, and we actually, Pat Bonus is one of our awesome nutrition educators, and she's on today with us. So that's really awesome.
Great, good. I think we've got a really nice group of people with us today. So let me see if I can figure out how many participants. We're up to 28 participants, including us. So we had 31 registered. And I just want to let you know that if you didn't register before about May 23, that's when I went shopping for the packets that were sent out. So hopefully you got a packet. If you didn't, I made 2 extra, and Jacqueline has already spoken for one. So if somebody wants to real quick put something in the box and say that they want it, they can speak for the other one. Okay. And there's one eyeball missing from the other one. I've got to find you an extra eyeball. Okay, Beth Kerr. Okay, so Jacqueline and Beth Kerr will get it. Good, good. Okay, so oops.
Excuse me, Wendy. Was the packet sent to our extension office?
Yes, it was. If you registered after May 20, you probably didn't get it. But if you didn't, that's okay, because all of this stuff is easily purchasable, and I can give you the kind of the ingredients that you can buy. But yeah, it was sent to the extension office. So if you want to go check your mail room, if you were an early register, you might be able to find it.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, I know we mailed one to you. So maybe check, because I know you got one. I definitely saw your name. Okay, so next up we have a little activity that we're going to do in your packet, or if you just want to take a piece of paper. But in your packet you might have found a paper plate. And so if you have a paper plate, break it out now. And I have to go get my other extra paper plate. I'll just do it on a piece of paper. So Pat Bonus has got her paper plate. She's going to demonstrate for us. So she's going to put that paper plate on her head. This is an icebreaker, you guys, and you can use this whenever you want. Okay, Michelle, you got yours? Good. Okay, we're gonna put it on our head like this. And I'm gonna stop sharing so everyone can see. So on your paper plate, the first thing I want you to think about is we're gonna draw a garden on our head, okay? So the first thing I'd like you to do on your head is to draw a tree, okay? So if you have a marker, it makes it easier. The bigger your marker, the easier it's gonna be. So the first thing you're gonna do is draw a tree. Okay. And, you know, put as much detail in there as you want. You know, you can make a nice big trunk. You can make leaves. Okay, how's it going, everybody? All right. The next thing I'd like you to do is draw some flowers under that tree. I'm going to swap it up. I'm going to try to color my flowers a little bit with a highlighter. So how are you all feeling? Is anyone feeling really comfortable with this? Okay, the next thing I'd like you to do is to draw a sun. Because we know that gardens need a lot of sunlight, right? Okay. And then I'd like you to draw a fence around your garden. Okay. And for Tycee and Jose, who are working alone at the extension office today, I hope that no clientele walk in and see us doing this. Okay. And then if you want, maybe we need some rain clouds. Let's yeah, hopefully you don't draw on your head. Let's put some clouds. So I'm gonna maybe make a cloud or two. Let me see. Yeah, I just drew on my head. Okay. And one of the other suggestions I had was to draw like a little fountain or a bird bath, because we like to attract wildlife to our garden too. And then I'm gonna put some water in there. Well, you know what? I'm kind of cheating because I'm looking at myself in the video, which isn't fair. Okay, so we've got a tree, we've got some flowers, we've got a sun, we've got some clouds, we have a fence, we have a fountain, and let's go ahead and share. How does it look, everybody? Oh, Michelle, yours is fantastic. Let me see. And Shri Moy, let me see yours again. Oh, you're good. That looks so good. Julio, let me see yours. Nice. Julio, go ahead and unmute so I can see yours a little closer. That looks awesome. And Kim, wow, so colorful. Oh, Katie, you cheated. Katie McCormick. Taylor, that's awesome. Good job. Jose, good job. Teresa is an artist. I love your bird bath. Really nice. Pat Bonas is very creative. That's good. Jamie, did I see yours? Oh, she went, yeah, that looks good. Linda's looks good. Laura's looks amazing. Evie's looks awesome. We saw Sharimoy and Beth. Let me see yours. Put it in front a little bit more. Yeah, you got the fence and the tree. Good. Ashley, perfect. Ashley, that is excellent. Good job. Good job. So when we were out in Texas, we did this. Pat, yours looks good. Does anybody else want to show? Claire, did you do one? Okay, no worries, no worries. Well, it is, it's kind of fun to, as an icebreaker, to get yourself out of your comfort zone. So this was a really neat activity. And I think that with a paper plate and some markers, you could do this with children too, and get them to be really creative and kind of out of their comfort zone and laughing at themselves and laughing at others. So I'm glad you all like that. And for the low cost of a paper plate, you can do this too. Okay. So I wanted to go over our purpose and objectives today. Let's see, and share. And so our purpose and objectives today are to introduce IFAS Extension Agents, FCS, FNP, 4-H, horticulture, and FNP educators to school gardening practices, techniques, resources, and innovative programming. And I think some of you all have maybe seen some of the exercises and the activities and the concepts that we're doing that we are going to do today. I think you may have seen them before, but it's our hope to get you re-inspired, reinvigorated, and remember. And that's one of the things that Jeannie and I did when we were out in Texas, is that we were like, oh yeah, this is fun. This is cool. I definitely want to share this again with kids because it's great. And then the other point that we really hope to get out of this is that to foster collaboration between the agents. And so there'll be, I want us to really work together as a team as far as gardening goes in the extension office. So it should be a youth gardening team when we are delivering in collaboration between 4-H, FCS, FNP, as well as horticulture all together. So that theme is going to come up again. We also want to help you inspire leadership in different school gardens and youth gardening settings. So empowering your volunteers to do more. And I think with good education and good fun activities and knowledge, we can get more leadership in our youth gardening. And then to provide evidence-based and engaging activities to empower youth and healthy lives. And so some of our objectives for you are that 80% of our participants will utilize at least 2 of the activities within a year of seeing them today. So I think some of you are already ready to break out the paper plate and use that activity. And then we hope that 25% of the participants will report creating one productive partnership, even if it's just across the hall, but a productive partnership in relative to our youth gardening extension in Florida. Okay. All right. So the day looks like this. Our icebreaker, which we just did, and then Jeannie Necessary is going to do the FNP overview. And then Mindy Hanak and Carlita Fiestas-Nunez is going to do garden management and creating garden leaders. And then from 11 to 12, I'm going to be doing the Junior Master Gardener activities to add pop to your programming. Then we're going to have a lunch break. And then if we want to come back a little early from the lunch break, I mean, we really want to start at 1. So we're going to go into raised bed gardening with Katie McCormick. Then Judy Dampier has got an excellent presentation on earth boxes and that type of gardening. And then Lorna Bravo from Broward County will be joining us on hydroponic options that you might be able to incorporate into youth gardening programming. Then from 2 to 2:30, Sarah Hensley is going to talk to us about how do you evaluate these programs. And she's from the 4-H state office, and she's going to help us with that. With Sarah, we're on a really tight agenda with her. She needs to start at 2 and end at 2:30 because she has to do school pickup, and she's the only person that can do that. And if you can relate to that, raise your hand. We all do. So we're gonna, if Lorna is going a little bit long, we'll stop her at 2 and have her come back and join us after Sarah is done. And then Jeannie and I are going to talk from 2:30 to 3 on agent available resources. And then we're going to turn it back to you and ask what resources you use that you like and what you're doing in your school gardening programs that is really working and something that you feel is worth sharing. So be prepared to kind of chime in with that. And then we're going to take a little screen break. And then at 3:30, Lisa Whitsley is going to join us. She is the Junior Master Gardener Program Lead from Texas A&M. And she's going to share with us a program that they've been using called Learn, Go, Eat, Grow, LGEG. And it took me and Jeannie a while to be able to say it, but we can say it now. So we're real happy about that. And that is already in Florida in a couple counties, but I just think that this program and curriculum is really innovative because it combines gardening, healthy living, healthy eating, and exercise. So, and it does a lot to get the families incorporated. And they also have a lot of bilingual and Spanish opportunities through this program too. So for Florida, I'm really excited about that. So that's kind of what the day looks like for us. Does anyone have any questions about the course of the day? Will we make it? Yes, we will. Okay. All right. Thank you all. Jeannie, so I'm going to put you about 4 minutes ahead. So I'm going to let you go ahead and get going. I'm going to stop share. Wait, I got to check the chat box. Okay, great. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate it. Okay, great. All right, I'm going to stop share, and Jeannie, go ahead and share away.
Okay, I thought I had I thought I had stopped my video to do my hair adjustment. Sorry about that. So good morning, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. I have a presentation about just kind of an overview of F&P and SNAP Ed in general to give you an idea of how we work with the Family Nutrition Program. I try to make it interactive, but I have to say that it's kind of content heavy. So bear with me as I go through this. Can everybody see my screen okay? Okay, great. All right. So let me get my presentation up here. All right. Okay. So again, my name is Jeannie Necessary. I'm the food systems coordinator at the state office here in Gainesville. And I've been working with the Family Nutrition Program for about 3 years now. I started actually in Miami-Dade as a public health specialist, which I'll get into a little bit more as we go through the presentation, and moved to Gainesville a little over 2 years ago now to take the position as the food systems coordinator. So I'm just going to go through some of my presentation objectives. We'll start with an introduction to the Family Nutrition Program, talk about the SNAP Ed guidance overview. And if you're not familiar with the use of the word SNAP, SNAP is defined as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It was formerly known as food stamps. Then we'll talk about PSEs and community impact. And PSEs are policies, systems, and environmental changes. And that's really a core focus of our school garden work and our specialist team. Then I'll talk about specific SNAP Ed garden guidance that's within the SNAP Ed guidance. Talk about some F&P partnerships within Extension, as I mentioned earlier. And then finally, just talk about some reporting and successes. Okay, so what is FNP? So FNP is the Family Nutrition Program. We help limited resource families in Florida access more nutritious food choices on a budget and adopt healthier eating and physical activity habits to reduce the risk of obesity and chronic disease. We are one of 2 SNAP-Ed implementing agencies in the state of Florida. The Department of Health is the other implementing agency. So our core values, we stepped back a few years ago as part of our own internal strategic plan and developed our core values based on also taking into account and based on the overall IFAS Extension core values. You can see on the screen the different areas that we value the most as a program. The 2 I really want to highlight are stewardship, as we do receive federal funds. And then, so when being committed to being responsible for those federal resources, and then also collaboration and partnership. We are under the FYCS umbrella. Dr. Carla Fiestas-Nunez acts as our principal investigator, and Lynette Jean is our associate director. In terms of collaboration and partnership, we work closely with local partners, nonprofit organizations, and of course, extension agents in our work within our communities. So where we work, so we're a little bit different than the overall extension, as we actually are working in 40 of the counties in the state where we provide free nutrition education. And if you all are familiar, and you can see it at the top or the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's an annotate button. And I just wanted to, if you guys could click on the annotate and go to your stamp and put a little star where you are. I know we already kind of talked about, so you can see I just did that on the screen there. So I am in Alachua, so I'll put a little star on Alachua. We've got Beth. And okay, great, yay. I was like, I don't know if this will work, but so we've got a lot of representation from around the state. So I'm very happy to see that. So I'm going to clear our drawings. And thank you for engaging in that activity. It's been one of my favorite things of learning about Zoom. And so we actually have nutrition educators and PSE specialists, so the policy system environmental specialists in each region that we serve. We have 2 units that work on the PSE level, the food systems team and the public health teams. These teams provide support to the nutrition educators who are educating the community on healthy nutrition practices to make the healthy choice the easy choice, which is pretty much our motto, excuse me. So if we don't work in your area, we may work adjacent to your area, but any of the areas in tan, we do not have the family nutrition program in those areas. So we work in 3 core areas, program areas. This is kind of how our contract is written, how our and the areas that we focus on overall. So the first is actually, it's not necessarily the first, but one of the areas is childcare centers. So creating healthy childcare centers, creating healthy schools, and then creating healthy communities. And for childcare centers specifically, we provide trainings. We've been working with the Health Council of Southeast Florida to provide Healthy Kids, Healthy Future trainings to support childcare providers in implementing best practices. Again, to make the healthy choice the easy choice for students and families. In schools, we work a lot with school gardens. And as I go through, you'll see a little bit more about that work. We also, most of our specialists are technical assistance providers for the Cornell developed Smarter Lunchrooms, which is a behavioral economics techniques to help nudge students towards healthier choices in the cafeteria. And we also work with school districts on wellness policies. In the community, we work with food pantries to incorporate behavioral economics techniques again, to nudge clients towards healthier choices, and also work with food pantries in the client choice model that gives clients more choice in what they choose to take from the food pantry, as sometimes food pantries provide a box. This gives them more dignity in their choices. And also we've been working on, and this actually came out of a collaboration with, I believe her name is Natasha, an agent in Duval or Leon, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly, collaborated with one of our specialists, Catherine Hart in Duval, to start a farm to community program. And so we've actually been working to develop that toolkit to connect farmers to some of these sites like childcare centers or food pantries, or not food pantries, excuse me, like senior sites in the community to provide maybe CSA boxes, the community supported agriculture boxes, to be able to use their SNAP dollars. Oop, there we go. So one of the things that there's basically two tenets to SNAP Ed. One is direct education. So direct education of individuals and groups has always been a cornerstone of our work. And curriculum must be evidence-based and evaluated. That's part of the, that's a big part of our, work. So you can see we offer general nutrition, cooking focused activities, cooking demonstrations, and hands-on cooking classes. And then in 2013, the USDA expanded SNAP Ed to include policy systems and environmental changes. And they were brought about to complement and enhance direct education. And we'll go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into PSEs as we go along. But I want to start now just to kind of dive a little bit more into what is SNAP Ed. So SNAP Ed is there's multiple layers to how SNAP Ed works. So on a federal level, as far as the structure goes, it's administered by the federal government with two federal partners, the Food and Nutrition Service and the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, which are both agencies within the USDA. So the second layer is that the specific interventions, objectives, and implementing agencies of SNAP Ed are largely decided at the state level. And here in the state of Florida, that state level agency is the Department of Children and Family, who then contract out to implementing agencies to implement the programs to operate at the local level. So we have actually been the, up until last year, we were the sole implementing agency for SNAP Ed in the state of Florida for around 25 to 26 years. And now we have been joined by our partners, the Department of Health at the local level. But typically, overall across the country, you could see that the main partner at the local level are actually land-grant universities, and cooperative extension services operate, within the LGUs. Of course, you all know that. And they're the main unit through which SNAP Ed implements programming. Outside of the land-grant universities, other agencies that implement SNAP Ed are public and private entities, again, such as the Department of Health, some food banks across the country, health departments, and nonprofit organizations. So I think in California, for example, I believe because they get a lot of SNAP Ed funding, that they are actually, I think there's like I think I heard that there was like over 100 implementing agencies. So you can see it's like distributed differently in each state, which makes things a little bit interesting because we developed our programming different than other states. The goal, and I can tell you a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to tell you what the goal is. You can see here is to improve the likelihood that persons eligible for SNAP will make healthy food and lifestyle choices that prevent obesity. And it helps address the issue of obesity, poverty, and food insecurity by teaching people who are eligible for SNAP about good nutrition and how to stretch their food dollars further. And the program is authorized and based and guided by these two documents, which is the SNAP-Ed guidance document, which comes out every single year. This is the most recent one on the left here. And then it's also guided by the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which is updated every 5 years. The program funding was allocated through the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 and the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, otherwise known as the Farm Bill. And a set of SNAP-Ed money is allocated to each state based on these two acts. And so the people that we serve are eligible for SNAP benefits and other income-based federal assistance programs such as WIC or TANF. TANF is known as the welfare program. It's actually a block grant program that different organizations can apply to. And then low-income individuals that are eligible for SNAP would be equal to the gross monthly amount, monthly income, less than 185% of the poverty level. However, while the federal cutoff is 185%, in Florida, it's actually 200% to match the state's eligibility cutoff for SNAP. You can see the other primary audiences, parents of and other adult caregivers responsible for obtaining and preparing food for children, older adults, as I mentioned, like doing farm to community for senior centers, children and adolescent youth, pre-kindergarten through high school. And when we think about the assurance that all eligible persons shall have equal access to the benefits of the program, it's regardless of color, national origin, sex, religion, age, or handicap, is an important objective overall of IFAS Extension. And just to kind of note that the F&P is, the programming is for people who are healthy, along with those who are at risk or are managing a chronic disease, but it's not for people who would require, for example, medical nutrition therapy, such as those people would be referred, it'd be better to refer to them to a registered dietitian or other healthcare provider. And we also cannot work with adults that may be incarcerated. So while they're incarcerated, we cannot work with them. And so SNAP-Ed has some guiding principles. It must be evidence-based. So the curriculum, as I mentioned earlier, must be evidence-based and behaviorally focused. It should be done in collaboration with local, state, regional, and national partners to maximize impact. And again, the approaches also should include environmental and policy level interventions, which is the PSEs, Policy Systems Environmental Changes. And I wanted to step back on this slide and just mention that in our case, we decided on, in the state of Florida with Extension, that we would have a team of nutrition educators that would be responsible to go into the community and provide direct education to sites. We had to switch to a virtual platform during the time of COVID. Things are getting back to quote unquote normal in terms that we can go back out to sites. But then we hired a team of 12 people across the state to actually support the direct education with the policy systems environmental changes that I mentioned earlier. We have a public health team and we have a food systems team, and they work in collaboration with the extension program managers who manage the nutrition educators and the nutrition educators to do this, to really make sure that SNAP-Ed, that the nutrition education and the community neighborhood approaches combine to make these changes. And as far as I know, we're really the only state that does it in this way. A lot of other states have nutrition educators doing both. So they have them doing PSE interventions and the direct education. But here we have two separate teams that do this, that work together in their communities. And combined, these PSEs combined with direct education would really equal multi-level approaches to changing food access and nutrition in the communities. And then finally, just kind of seeing how we can approach this in our communities. In other words, SNAP-Ed provides nutrition education and works to improve the communities in which SNAP recipients live, work, and play, to make it easier for them to make healthy food and physical activity choices. And another way to kind of look at that same idea is that when we do our work, we can do PSEs at the same site. So for example, the nutrition educator is providing nutrition education at the site. So we can do a PSE there. We can do it at the school. We can do it at a community center, or the system that overlaps with nutrition education. So that could be, we could do an intervention such as our pantry nudges, or we could work on efforts to improve transportation in the area, to maybe, suggest with best practices from around the country, to suggest that bus routes be changed to line up with grocery stores or with farmers markets. So we can work at this level as well. And then finally, one of the ways that we can work on policy systems environmental changes is to work on the county-wide or city-wide level. So thinking about district wellness policies, or being on a committee to provide best practices and education around support for like an urban agriculture policy, which we have actually done some work here in Alachua County, but also in Pinellas County to support those type of policy changes with providing them with best practices. So we can really work at various levels and have that direct education within the community. So I'm just going to pause for a moment and just see if anyone has any questions or have any comments about the way that SNAP-Ed works. And I can't see the chat right now, so if there's any chat, actually I can, I think. But if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to unmute yourself.
I'm watching it for you too.
Okay, great. Okay.
Hey, yeah, actually, hey, Jeannie, quick question for you. So, in the counties, I know we're blessed here in Palm Beach to have a relatively large FNP program, and our EPM Heidi Reber. I started my career as a program assistant with FNP, and it definitely, I would say, I give a lot of credit to my career now because of my start in FNP. But I do know that some counties also have FNET. So can you kind of speak to the counties that have both? What challenges or hurdles? Is there, do we go to FNP for certain things and FNET for other things? What are your thoughts on all that? or is that kind of too much to unpack right now?
So I could give you a short answer to it, which is that, FNP's reach is more, we work with, like I said, those specific, there's a specific population that we can work with. So we can work from students, children, adults, seniors. FNEP, and we work on, because of the 2013 edition of Policy Systems Environmental Changes, that is one of the areas that we have to work on. Like we don't have a choice. We have to work on those areas. So with FNEP, the focus is primarily on families and adults and providing education to families and adults. It is also a federally funded program, but in terms of like the differences too, is like one of my dear friends is an FNEP agent in Miami-Dade. And so she's an agent, as in we are not agents. So that's another difference too. And I know in terms of like when I was in Miami, I really wanted to work with FNEP closer to see like how we could, for example, support a site that maybe they were providing direct education to with a policy system and environmental change. So those are really up to the county level. I know that like Hillsborough, West Palm, or excuse me, Palm Beach and Miami-Dade have FNEP, and I believe there's another county, and I'm spacing right now on what the other county is. But in terms of like, I do know the one thing that has changed a little bit for FNEP is that they are asking to work on policy systems and environmental changes as well. So really it's just working it out at the county level on how that would work for both programs.
Yeah, that answers, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely the county level, probably just, for example, here in Palm Beach, it would just be a matter of looping in Heidi and Danielle, which is our FNEP extension agent, in an email and saying, hey, how can we do this? I guess that would just be the best way to discuss it, because there's probably just a little bit of a gray area.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into at the end of the presentation, I'll talk a little bit about reporting. So there are some very specific reporting strategies that have been that I've been made aware of that I'll talk about towards the end.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you, Daniel. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Just want to check my time here. So I just want to go into a little bit more about what is a policy system environmental change and the impact it has on our community. So I actually grabbed this definition from the Health Trust. It's like kind of my favorite description of what a PSE is. So policy system environmental changes approaches seek to go beyond direct education programming, and into the systems that create the structures in which we work, live, and play, as I mentioned earlier. So it's really looking at the systems and how can we improve them. It's kind of like somebody once said that made this example of you build a swimming pool, but the people don't know how to swim. So you need that direct education to teach them how to swim, or vice versa. They know how to swim, but they don't have the swimming pool or any access to water. So it's really, that's why it's important for these direct education and system changes to overlap with one another to ensure that they have access to things, that people have access to things they need in order to support their lifestyle, healthy lifestyle choices. And they work hand in hand. For example, an environmental change may be furthered by a policy or a system change. For example, if like, so for example, in Miami-Dade County, which I'm the most familiar with still, having gardens, I started my career managing a garden program in Miami-Dade. And eventually that garden program was actually incorporated into the wellness policy to encourage schools to plant gardens as a source for a learning environment for students, and also, of course, being able to do taste tests and other things, but it was actually integrated into the wellness policy at the school district, which is a best practice now for the country through the Alliance for a Healthy Generation. That's one of the areas that the Alliance works with wellness policies, and that is a best practice. And similarly, a policy could be put in place that results in additional environmental changes. So the process is not linear. And I wanted to show you just quickly, and it's kind of appropriate with Daniel's question too, is that I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. And I wanted to show you that there really, this really cool website where you can dive a little bit deeper on your own. So it's called psechange.org, very appropriate, psechange.org. And I can also put this in the chat. And you can see FNEP's here and then SNAP-Ed. And so can you see if I click to the next tab, can you let me know, thumbs up, can you see the map? Okay, great, thank you. You can't. Can you see the map with the church and the, okay, great.
Yes.
I can.
Awesome. Okay, wonderful. So you can see here that like actually this shows you like the, if I site overview, let's see, play. So like it goes down to that live, work, and play. And you can click on these different plus signs and it will show you different interventions that can occur in the community that are reinforced by that direct education or vice versa. So I love this site. And see if I can put this in here. I put the link in the chat here. And then I also wanted to show you kind of like not our guiding, this is not the guidance, but I wanted to show you the SNAP-Ed toolkit, which I'll also add to the chat, because this actually is a really wonderful resource for us, because let's say the community wants, I don't know, an intervention, wants a specific intervention. Let's say they wanted a mobile farmers market in their area. Then this is actually a bunch of best practices from across the country that we can then go in and explore. And then there's also a framework. So this is all like what when we build out our plan for the year, these are the framework. The evaluation framework is really what we look at in order to kind of create our plan. And again, you can see the domains of environmental settings: eat, learn, live, play, shop, work. And then there are these short-term indicators of that we can evaluate, medium term. So like we really evaluate MT5 as a nutrition support. So that's our direct education, but there's some really cool ones in here like LT. Oh, I don't know why that's not here. Well, that was fun to, maybe it's LT10, but there's one that's like, no, there's one that's called LT12, and I'm really not sure why it's not on this specific map or chart, but LT12 is like literally food systems. So, but you can see that it's just like anything else. You've got your short term, like the readiness, then the medium term change, and then what is it going to look like for long term? So you guys can take some time and explore that on your own if you would like. But I wanted to point that out to you all, especially the psechange.org, because we actually are featured a lot in the videos and examples on psechange.org. All right, I'll go back and share presentation. So just breaking it down a little bit, a policy is written. So that's what really makes that different than like a systems change or environmental change. Policy change. Oh, thanks, Kim. Yeah, LT12 is shown on the website. For some reason, it wasn't on that site. It is very strange. I was not expecting that. So policy changes include creating or changing government laws and regulations, rules, or policies of organizations, schools. They can be formal or informal. So they can be like a policy change that is more informal, but they are written. So for example, this is actually a really good example. A a Florida County school district changes its policy to increase the amount of daily recess time for all elementary school students. So this actually happened in Miami-Dade. There was an update to their wellness policy to increase the amount of daily recess. So it was like 20 minutes per day. And actually what ended up happening with that policy is it went all the way to the top of the state, and the state ended up adding it into their statutes to create this policy across the state that schools had to increase the amount of daily recess for all elementary school students. So even though there was a policy at a local level, it ended up changing the policy on the state level. And then of course you can see how that could also go to like a national level. So that's kind of how the policy piece works. And then systems change. So these are unwritten changes to the ways that government, business, or nonprofit organizations function. They can be unwritten, ongoing organizational decisions or changes that result in new activities reaching large proportions of the people the organization serves. It may precede or follow written policies. So for example, let's say a city starts a mobile farmers market to make it easier for residents to buy fresh produce, but they have, right now they're saying like, you can go, the mobile market can go to these places, which are city run, but a church wants to also be included in like a mobile market route. But at that time, maybe the city policy is that for some reason, a mobile market cannot go to a church. This is, again, a real life example. So the city modifies its policy for zoning regulations to make it okay for the mobile market to go to the churches. And then that way the mobile market can actually go to where the people are instead of expecting the people to go where the mobile market is. So again, real life example of a policy that has been changed to support this systems change. And then finally, and I've got like a really awesome picture here of Carlita, who will be presenting next, is an environmental change. So in an example, very simple, easy example, because they are a visual, observable. They may include economic, social, normative, or message environments. These are a perfect example of this is a school garden. So here in this picture, I just want to do a shout out to Carlita. Is Carlita doing technical assistance to, after providing resources to a school, I think this is an early child care center, she provided the resources and then did a technical assistance call to help them actually plant the garden during this pandemic time. So I just love the picture because Carlita looks so happy, and the kids, you can barely see them, very tiny, but they look happy too. So let's see. Yes, and Carlita mentions earth boxes in Child Care Center in Broward, and Judy Dampier, who is our food system specialist in Liberty, Dixie County up here, Levy County, will be on later to discuss earth boxes. So the role of SNAP-Ed, again, you see these LT, the long-term PSE changes, we are seen as, so the specialists like Carlita and Judy, they are looked at as consultants and technical advisors for creating the changes rather than the provider of the services. We assist organizations, so ultimately they can adopt, maintain, and enforce them themselves without continuous involvement from SNAP-Ed. And we work closely with partners to develop useful and relevant changes that are feasible for partners to sustain. So one of, like the Healthy Kids, Healthy Futures training, we train the childcare centers in these best practices. We find out if they are already implementing best practices. If not, how can we help them incorporate a best practice? And then the idea is that once that we've done that training, that best practice will be maintained over time. So the bottom line is that SNAP-Ed guidance states we are not supposed to be working with a site forever, but we will assist them with technical assistance and consulting to get them to a place where they can sustain the work on their own. And as I was putting this presentation together, I also realized that this is a good opportunity too for agents to continue working with sites to support their efforts after we've stepped away. So we are actually working on developing more guidance around the time in which we are working with sites, because right now it's not, some of this stuff is not clearly defined in the SNAP-Ed guidance. And then just to continue on, it's just pretty much saying the same thing, but they're ultimately, partner organizations are ultimately responsible for adopting and maintaining the PSE change. PSE changes should reflect input from the partner organization and community members. So we really take, when we do this work, we are looking at what the community wants or needs. We are working on developing a way to do needs assessments in the communities as well. One of the programs I worked with in Miami-Dade, the city had already done a needs assessment of the community. So we knew exactly what we need, what the community wanted to focus on, which is very important in this change, because we don't want to go in with our own ideas and change the community in our vision. We want to change the community in the community's vision. And SNAP-Ed programs must not take on or supplant the responsibilities of federal, state, and local program operators. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So now it's time for a quick review of PSEs. It's time for everybody's favorite game show. I think it's favorite game show called Is This a PSE? So if you want to put in chat, this may not be the easiest. I'll just throw that out there because I know I did a quick overview of this stuff, but in the F&P world, here are some examples of what is and is not considered a PSE. So is this a PSE? And again, you can just add in chat whether you think it is or isn't. So providing a water bottle to kids in a nutrition education class taught by F&P. What do y'all think? I got some no's, I got a yes, I got a no question mark. So actually, it's not a PSE. This is actually considered a water bottle given to kids would be considered a nutrition education reinforcement item as it reaches them at the direct education level. So actually, like the NERIs, as we call them, are provided to the participants of classes after they have received the direct education. So assisting the development and implementation of a school district wellness policy around increasing water access, allowing all students to bring their own refillable water bottle and outline school's responsibility. What do you think? Yes, yes, because the school implemented a policy. Great. I see lots of yeses. Wonderful. Putting hand washing posters in the bathroom. What do you think? Yes or no? I think this is a little bit tricky. Got lots of no's, got another no question mark, got a yes question mark. So actually it's not considered a PSE. It would be considered indirect education. So we don't consider that a PSE. Right, Pat makes a point. It used to be that posters were considered PSEs. However, now we got the rules tightened up a little bit and they are not considered PSEs anymore. Okay, so providing technical assistance that leads to an early child care center implementing best practices. What do you think? Yes or no? Got a yes. Got a yes, got a yes. All right, lots of yeses. Yes, the best practices have been implemented, so it is a PSE. Nutrition education program has helped individual seniors at a congregate meal site understand the benefits of making healthy choices and limiting unhealthy foods. What do you think? Yes or no? Got some no's, ooh, this one's a divided one. So it's actually not a PSE because this would be considered direct education. A recreation center creates a policy so that the center's food purchasing will follow My Plate and dietary guidelines for Americans. Is that a policy, or excuse me, is that a PSE? Yes, that is correct because it's a policy. And in the sake of time, I think I'm having fun with this, but these are some of the other, So like distributing recipe cards would not be considered a PSE because it would be indirect education. Helping to create a bulletin board and supply posters would not be considered a PSE. So helping to create the bulletin board and supply posters would not be a PSE, it'd be indirect education. So gardening with a goal, I'm just checking my time here. Whew. I did practice this, I swear. These are so you can see that SNAP Ed actually encourages gardens. It says right here that, right here, oops, right here, it says, sorry, not the best circle making, food related, garden and related education for nutrition and obesity. So that is definitely allowable by SNAP Ed. And then here are the allowable actual costs. So we can supply plants, seeds, small gardening tools, fertilizer, potting, soil to assist, and then educational supplies, curriculum, staff salaries to teach food, gardening concepts. And then finally, if it's allowable, we have to get FNS approval. We can provide funding for staff salaries to establish and maintain community gardens, such as low-income housing projects or schools. And actually, this is something we do in Alachua County with the Alachua County Food Hub that works with the school district in Alachua County, and we actually provide 2 nutrition educators at the site. The cost of rental or purchasing of garden equipment or the purchase of rental of land for garden plots are not allowable. So you can see we have some decisions to make here. How we can support a garden. So this is a little decision tree that I made because the process isn't as cut and dry as it may appear. If the school is not receiving direct education or a PSE training, such as the Healthy Kids, Healthy Futures training, it's not receiving DE from another organization. So if we're providing direct education, then we could support with a garden, or has any of this in the past or intends to do any sort of evidence-based nutrition education on their own, which is like a lot of the resources that we're going to talk about today, then we cannot support a garden at that site. We have to make sure that there's that overlap at some point in some way with our direct education. So you can see that we have, it's really not as cut and dry as it may seem. And I wanted to kind of just review quickly community garden guidance in the SNAP Ed guidance, which is that they're easily accessible for SNAP Ed individuals. The produce must be grown and distributed at a partner site if it's not directly serving SNAP Ed eligible individuals. And nutrition education should be conducted at the garden, which is sometimes challenging, as that is not necessarily an easy site to do direct education. But again, if another organization is providing that education, then we could provide resources for a garden. And also we can't double dip. So let's say, so we're providing free resources to start a garden, then the site cannot profit from that, those specific vegetables or fruits that they are growing in the garden. So for example, the produce from school gardens can't be served in the National School Lunch Program, but with a caveat that they can be used for taste tests, they just cannot be sold. So the reason is because since SNAP Ed is a USDA program, National School Lunch Program is also a federal USDA program, we can't allow for them to sell the fruits. So sometimes this can get a bit complicated when a school has a garden, say funded by a school district or another organization or agent. In this case, it would be recommended to have this clearly documented, what purpose the garden is for each case. So in the simplest terms, if F&P provides money to the garden, the site can't sell the produce. It's a bit complicated when it comes to donating produce, and we are actively working to clarify that guidance. And then partnering with Extension. So this is just kind of, I wanted to highlight some wonderful connections that we've had over the course of the past couple of years. We've got the Good Food Connections. So Carlita, food system specialist in the Southeast over Martin County, Broward, and St. Lucie, has been working with agent Yvette Goodiel and Carol Roberts, who's the community resource development agent there, to host a monthly virtual Good Food Connections event that brought together key food players in the area, farmers, chefs, to kind of work on how to develop a stronger food system in their area. In 2019 to February 2020, until the pandemic kind of shut everything down, food system specialist Kelly Wilson, who is in the Southwest region, Collier Lee, and oh my gosh, sorry, Collier Lee, and I cannot think of the other one right now, I'm so sorry, was working with Sustainable Ag and Food System Agent Jessica Riles, and Southwest Regional Specialized Agent in Community Gardens, Guru Susan Webb, to plan and implement the first Collier County community gardens. So it consisted of a visit to an F&P garden sites where people learned about the history of, and the tour culminated with lunch and reflective discussion at the Collier County office. 34 people attended, with 11 people representing F&P partner sites, and the feedback was positive. Experience learning as much from each other as from the gardens they visited. So community gardens, Judy, who's going to be joining us, food system specialist in Levy County, worked with agent Jessica Emerson Campos and collaborating to use the garden at the extension office to use in tastings over the summer. So the herbs will be used in the 4-H grilling camp this summer, and the campers will be taught how they can use herbs as a replacement for sodium to enhance the flavor of their meats and other vegetables. And they'll have an opportunity to visit the garden and harvest the herbs themselves. And then further plans for how 4-H can be involved in F&P are currently under discussion. School gardens. So Mindy, who's on the call today as well, who will be co-presenting with Carlita, it works with food system specialist Emily Grant in Sarasota County. Mindy is the school gardens coordinator, and they work closely to prepare and distribute materials to the schools in Sarasota County. And even with the reduction of participation because of the pandemic, they were still able to distribute a ton of materials this year. And they hosted a plant pickup for ECE centers and after school clubs. So you can see where there's a great collaborative effort there in Sarasota to support school gardens. And I know we really haven't talked about direct education too much in this presentation, except to say that there has to be an overlap. But in the Northwest region, so Leon County and in Calhoun and Liberty, so they've been working together to co-teach direct education classes with the FCS and Hort Ag agents. And they've been supported by Master Gardener volunteers. The CED in Liberty participates in the Florida Crunch, which is a one-day event in October that celebrates National Farm to School Month, where the nutrition educators go in and talk about, they may do a nutrition education lesson, and then all the students crunch on a specific vegetable. And then the CED in Calhoun County actually has helped build the irrigation system at one of their schools. So I'm just going to pause here for a second before we get to the reporting piece, and we'll have time, a little bit of time at the end for questions. So I just wanted to know if there were any stories you'd like to share, and how have you collaborated with other extension agents or F&P staff with food systems work? You can feel free to unmute yourself and talk, and I'll actually stop sharing screen so everybody can see each other's faces.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Not to always be talking, Jeannie. I'm sorry. Shree's smiling because I guess apparently that's the reputation. No. One thing Wendy, regarding that travel funding, let me know. And I'm kidding. No. So regarding working with FNP for food systems, I don't know, I think sometimes it's very easy for sometimes, since FNP is in that weird gray area that they're extension, but they're not part of the county extension office type thing. Sometimes we tend to forget just how much we're on the same team. And whenever I've had I've actually been able to work with one of our FNP program assistants. Her name is Juanisha. She's out here in Belglade because I'm at a satellite extension office. And just being able to, gosh, the idea of getting your foot in the door. If she's already working with a school, having her introduce me or me introduce her has really been able to create something special in terms of food systems. So that's just a little success story. It's happened multiple times. And especially in a small town, oftentimes you could send all the emails in the planet, but unless you actually know someone, it's really hard to get that foot in the door. And we've been able to do it. So it's a pretty awesome success.
That's wonderful, Daniel. Thanks so much for sharing that. I'm happy to hear that. That is one thing I'll share, that just internally, Carlita went with a school that wanted a garden, and at the time we were trying to get direct education scheduled virtually, and so Carlita actually reached out or connected the principal to the extension program manager. And next thing you know, there's 9 classes there, and they supported a garden. So that's how, like, internally, well, that's how the team works together, or that's the ideal model of working together. Does anybody else have anything to share? I see in the chat, Hardy County 4-H and FNP have a great relationship. This is from Jose. We visit the school system and child care centers. He develops the gardens with the kids and talk about the garden, and FNP PA talks about nutrition. That's awesome. We don't have FNP or FNIP in Polk. I plan to collaborate with FCS agent, but could you share some ways to go about building this partnership? So I'm not familiar with really how the FCS agent works, but I do have the, but I think that just in my experience, just kind of sitting down and having like conversations face-to-face and or virtually face-to-face, just starting to build that rapport with each other, let each other know what your needs are, what your goals are, and even like how you're working at a site. You could even like pilot doing a site together. That's one of the ways that I would think about like working together, and then meeting regularly with your counterpart agent to really kind of support one another in your goals that you come together on.
So I have one thing. I started working with one of elementary school contacted me last year, pre-COVID, about wanting to start a garden in their area. Well, they had 3 raised beds that they want to get started planting again. Unfortunately, my program I don't really have too much funds in my program because I'm in Putnam County and we're a little strapped. So I, of course, reached out to FNP because I knew about, they're helping with food systems. So met with them, and is it Travis that's around here, to get to see what we could work out. We were able to get the 3 beds started. With COVID, it was a little bit tricky to be there after school and to get the beds prepared. And then the school got COVID in the school system, so we couldn't go into there very often for the fall, but we started programming up in the this past winter. We planted some potatoes in their garden and some other stuff. FNP went and did their educational programming, and I just went a couple times throughout the, I guess, the semester to work with the kids. I was really nervous about it at first because I don't have too much experience working with it was a kindergarten class. So I was a little bit nervous there for a while. But just getting to the end where we were able to harvest the potatoes, I think that was the best time of that because the kids were just so amazed to see potatoes coming up with the plant, and they didn't realize potatoes grow like roots at the bottom of the plant. So we had a good time. I hope we can continue the partnership for the next year.
That's wonderful, Julio. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, kids are very, I think in just my experience, kids are intimidating. And then you're like, this is the best experience. So yeah, I found that with teachers too, actually, but teachers are awesome, but they can be a little bit intimidating as well. Thanks for sharing. And Linda, I know you wanted to share, and then I just want to wrap up with reporting. And then if we have time, we can share more or have questions. So Linda, did you want to share? We cannot hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was going to share if nobody else had anything to say, because I know being a teacher, you don't want a blank space. But can you see this picture right here? Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, that's my friend, coworker Tia. Her title is the Florida Friendly Landscape Agent. And we work with all these students at Stone Lakes Elementary School, because you asked for a different partnership. Is that correct? Yeah. All right. There's a wonderful extended day coordinator there. Her name's Tina. And besides doing garden beds there, also with my supervisor, Melinda, but we end up doing a butterfly garden, something extra. And I was just a helper, an assistant, and I helped out with the children, and Tia worked out where we did the butterfly and the landscaping, and everybody in every grade had to touch something, work on something. It was a wonderful experience. And now the front of the school is just absolutely gorgeous with this butterfly garden. So I just wanted to comment on that, because you said if we had any connections with different agencies.
Yeah, no, I think thank you for sharing that, because actually,
welcome.
Really, that's a really good point for me to actually add, which is that we only can support edible gardens. So we can't support pollinator gardens. So that's a really good opportunity for partnership as other agents or organizations are able to plant pollinator gardens. And they're obviously very important to the success of an edible garden. So thanks so much for sharing that, Linda, because that brought up that popped the light bulb off for me. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just share. I'm sorry, Wendy. I swear I timed this last night and everything. So
You're good. Take your full 3 minutes.
Okay, I will. All right, I'm gonna go for it. Okay, this will be fast, I hope. So reporting success. So we actually have what's called an EARS report that we have to submit. It's an education administrative reporting system. It's for all SNAP-Ed activities and states are participating in. And we use a database called PAIRS, which stands for Program Evaluation and Reporting System. And it helps us to manage the program data. So we had all our direct education and PSC changes in this database. And then they track details from agents and educators, and you can see all the areas that we work with. One being policy systems, environmental changes, of course, as I mentioned, and partnerships and coalitions. So F&P actually each year at the end of the fiscal year, the F&P data and evaluation team sends out a cleaned embedded report to each CED, so each county extension agent, in the fall. Everything the F&P works on can be reported through the CED or FCS agent in their ROA or POW. Dr. Shelnut doesn't report our information to PDEC, And the agents can add in their ROA how much time they're going to work with F&P related activities, typically around 3%. Each county gets to report the information from F&P. Otherwise, all the good work we do would not get reported. And the reason we don't send it out bit by bit each month is because the final report is vetted and cleaned by the data and evaluation team. So to just end the presentation on a high point, just to let you know, so far in pairs in our data reporting system, we've reported that we've supported 176 gardens in FY21, and we've reached over 18,200 and we've reached 18,236 participants. That is all. Thank you so much for listening to me and engaging in some of the activities. If you have any questions or comments, please contact me. You can see my email there, jnecessary@ufl.edu, and I will stop sharing my screen, and I got 1 minute. So I don't know, Wendy, I know we've got like kind of a tight agenda here, so I don't know if Pat has a moment to share her story.
I think we've got just a minute for Pat, so go ahead, Pat.
Okay. Guys, okay, yes, we are big. We kick it in Martin and St. Lucie counties. I have a site called Love and Hope in Action where they feed clients breakfast and dinner. I provide the direct education there, and Carlita comes in, and it's like a continuing PSE. We supply all the garden and herbs there. Carlita has a nice herb garden going there in big containers. So when they're preparing dinners, they have a chef and everything on site. So when they're preparing dinners, they can go out and use all the herbs there. They have, they have cilantro and basil and, parsley, things like that would be incorporated into their meals. And we also have a school, JD Parker in Stewart, and I teach the whole school direct education. And we've been supplying the compost. They got hydrostackers there. They got earth boxes and raised beds. It is an awesome site. And we're fortunate because we have 4-H that we work with all the time. I see Kim's clapping for us. We're very fortunate in Martin, St. Lucie counties because we have a lot of people that we can be involved in. That's all I wanted to say. So we're kicking it. Thank you.
You are, and it sounds like you're making an amazing difference in people's lives. So good job.
It's great.
To the whole team. So
thank you.
And so if you have any more questions for Jeannie about this, I really got educated on what FNP does out there in the counties. And I think hopefully you've learned a way to also potentially partner with these folks too, if you haven't in the past. All right, our next presentation is school garden management and creating school garden leaders with Carlita Fiestas-Nunez as well as Mindy Hanak. And I thank you both for presenting to us today. So if you'd like to go ahead and share, feel free. Okay, it looks good. We can see it. Go for it.
So thank you so much for having us. And this morning we're going to be talking about school gardens best practices. My name is Mindy Hanak, and I am the garden program coordinator for IFAS Sarasota County Extension for community and school gardens. And I'm joined by Carlita Fiestas-Nunez. You've already seen some pictures of her with gardens, and she is the FNP food system specialist in Southeast Florida.
I just want to make sure you are seeing the presentation slides and know the...
We're still in notes view, so see if you can get to presentation.
Okay. Let me try again. And start my new share, okay. Yeah, I don't really know. You're seeing my notes, the notes here?
Mhm.
we are seeing, so maybe stop share and then pull it up in full screen and then
Okay.
share that, maybe.
My computer has been acting weird this morning. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
And then if that won't pop up, I should have it up and I might be able to.
Mm-mm. Yeah, Mindy, can you try, because it's not letting me go to full presentation mode.
Perfect. Good job, guys.
Yes.
Thank you. Are you seeing it where it's in,
Yeah.
like, are you seeing the next slide in the screen too? Or are you seeing it where?
No, that looks good.
It looks good.
Yeah.
So, so just as a reminder, we're talking about school gardens best practices, and we will be discussing the benefits of school gardens, why we invest in them, how we can partner for school gardens, what our roles and challenges may look like, how UF, whether you're FMP, agent, master gardener, can be involved at school gardens, and provide some examples for that, and some tools that you may use to help build a framework, and also how we can try and empower resilient and sustainable school gardens. And I don't have the chat up on my screen, so are active right now. So hopefully y'all are hearing well. Carlita, can you nod if you're hearing well? Okay, thank you. So why we invest in school gardens? Essentially, it's an outdoor classroom. So it's a benefit to the students and the staff that are at the school. It's really convenient because your audience and the site are already together, so you're not busing people to and from. And even if some of the students aren't receiving direct education from us, additional classrooms can use that space to learn, many subjects. So it's a really good use of space. There's opportunity to help students become familiar with certain vocabulary, especially in the sciences, life sciences, and other things like that. And even just examples in the natural world, so that way when they are taking tests, they may have a point of reference and familiarity with what the questions are asking that they may not have otherwise. I've been at a school garden planting where a third grader was delighted because he was playing in dirt and he literally had never done that before. And this was not in an urban, this was a suburban area. So I was quite surprised. So there's a lot of benefit to having school gardens on a campus. And then agriculture is still one of the 3 pillars of Florida's economy. And so we're introducing, subject matter that may be relevant and inspire students into a career field that if they want to stay in Florida, is really opening up some opportunities and also investing in Florida itself by steering kids into those areas. And since it is hands-on, it helps engage some students in learning material they may not connect with otherwise. I've seen students that sometimes they may be the student that doesn't sit well in a classroom, and they have an opportunity to shine when they're out in the school garden. And sometimes they're the ones that are mentoring the other students when they're in that space. So health benefits stands to reason, and that's why there's a great partnership with Family Nutrition Program for having school gardens. And there's data that says, having a school garden and nutrition education helps people make good long-term decisions when it comes to food choices. It provides physical activity. So I know for adults, usually if they're gardening about 2 hours a week, that's considered a nice form of moderate exercise. And it's a great way of getting kids outside and also having an opportunity to learn at the same time. And kids become curious when they see vegetables and fruit growing. So they may be more likely to try a food because they've been curious watching it grow. So they become curious about, well, what does it taste like? And so that's a wonderful thing. And then they also see the interest from their peers. So if they were a little bit hesitant, they're more likely to try it. And you can see it when you do tasting lessons and everything. It's pretty effective. There's a lot of psychological benefits for being outside in green space. And kids are working on observation skills, working in a team, listening, all sorts of things. And they're also learning, a skill in like being able to self-sustain by growing their own food. It does, it can beautify the campus. Edible gardens are not always the prettiest, but if you scatter in some marigolds, those can help appeal to the eye if something else in the garden isn't quite pretty at the moment. And it also does improve food security because we're teaching people how to grow their own food. So what are the benefits? Why do we partner? So we talked about some of the benefits for the students that may be participating in a school garden. What are the benefits for us that are partnering to make it happen? So the teachers can gain support, like subject matter experts. They may not be a skilled gardener. And if they don't have fellow teachers that are participating, they can benefit. They don't feel like they're an island trying to take care of this whole garden. They have someone they can email or call and ask questions. What is this bug? What is this plant? How do I, like I received an email from a teacher, how do we eat this okra type of thing. And so sometimes it can be very simple the ways we can support them, and it helps with the longevity of their interest in keeping the garden because they don't feel alone. So family nutrition program, as Jeannie said, they can receive PSEs and gain an audience. Extension agents can reach a diverse audience and teach on a wide range of topics. And there's an outdoor classroom literally right there for them to utilize and do that. And then Master Gardener volunteers can earn volunteer hours in a really fun way. And those that enjoy working with youth really do enjoy it. Sometimes that's where they prefer to spend the majority of their Master Gardener time. So we all have an opportunity to create those community connections with school gardens. I can say I was at like a parent workshop in the evening at one of our SNAP-Ed eligible schools. And of the 20-something parents in the room, the two people that raised their hands having a little bit of understanding what extension was. When I asked them, had they heard of extension? Did they know about extension? They were familiar with it because of a school garden. The other people in the room were unaware. And so school gardens are actually a really nice introduction to people out in the community and spread the knowledge of the resources that we do offer. And in this picture, it's a very popular, one of our Master Gardeners, Walter. We all enjoy having any opportunity to learn from him, and our family nutrition program staff. And they were at one of the school gardens that we have in Northport.
Awesome. Okay, so another great benefit that we wanted to highlight in this presentation is, and specifically maybe touching on Master Gardener volunteers, is that we will be able to bridge the intergenerational knowledge gap between adults, seniors, and youth. So connecting seniors, in case of Master Gardeners, to youths of all ages can be very beneficial. Like maybe you might be familiar, we all have memories with of ourselves connecting with our grandparents. And in the case of gardens, we will see that youth will really enjoy digging or planting or watering at the garden, while seniors mostly enjoy designing the garden, selecting the seeds, trellising maybe, or mulching. So in this exchange of knowledge, seniors and students can mutually benefit working at the garden. For example, seniors can share knowledge and skills, stay physically active, and engage in their communities, while students of all ages really glean the wisdom and skills of gardening, nurture relationships with seniors, with seniors connections to the youth, to their community. And the students can also gather new insight to the value of gardening with adults or seniors. And while with these connections, we're creating awareness of extension resources in the community. Like Mindy just mentioned, these connections enable extension to share their knowledge with youth and grow another generation that learns about extension as a resource in the community and perhaps inspire new Master Gardener volunteers or new 4-H members. In school gardens, as we can see, indeed offer the generations a way in a space to interact with one another in a positive way. Next, please. So as UF staff, being extension agents or FMP staff, we can support gardens during the school day, which is the most beneficial because the students and teachers are there and they can make curriculum integration into the classroom related to science, maths, arts, nutrition, you name it. Now, you may only be supporting a classroom garden, and that's okay. That's usually limited to one teacher or one class, or just a garden club. Or you can also support a whole garden, a school garden, that involves reaching out to all of the students at a specific school. You can start small and expand as time goes along, and it can also be an after-school program in the school. Make 4-H partnerships, and as 4-H agents can also be involved in some school gardens in your counties. And we can support teachers and schools with community events that will contribute to the sustainability of the school gardens. Think about gardens that are truly used as outdoor gardens. We can support teachers to host lessons and activities and connect them with resources such as Florida Ag in the classroom. We can help them increase signage for people so that they get to know the garden. We can add nutrition stations, maybe riddles or ponds, or art projects. As you can see in the pictures here, how kids are involved in making the garden look beautiful through art projects or applying math and literature concepts. And, oh, sorry, just one more thing. And we can also support organizing planting, harvesting, and tasting events, which are usually fun activities for the kids. And remember that if you are supporting a school garden, FMP would love to teach nutrition to the students and make them connect gardening with nutrition concepts, increasing the health benefits of having a school gardens. Next slide, okay. So now talking about the general roles of everyone involved in school gardens, many of us know that school gardens require a lot of our time and energy. So it's important to be organized and specify the roles of everyone. For example, for UF staff, our role will be to provide education about and in the garden, maybe offer train-the-trainer opportunities for the teachers or the garden leaders, or through direct education to youth. We can also provide garden guidance to start and maintain a school garden and connect the school garden leaders to UF resources. On the school administration side, their role will be more into allowing permission to the teachers who want to start a garden and integrate their classrooms in the gardens for learning purposes, maybe providing support like financial opportunities and allowing staff to be involved in the garden and still be considered paid work hours. And most importantly, understanding that the garden and the process might not always be pretty and quickly, and that having kids in the garden are truly a valuable time investment. The needs of the school gardens, specifically when garden leaders leave their position and the garden will still need maintenance. So many needs, but one of the most important ones is when people who we have been working with leave the school and move to another place, and we are left without contact. So understanding of the needs of the school garden needs is very important. Next. So the teacher's role will involve to use the garden as an educational resource for their students. Like I mentioned, integrating different school curricula, They will be the leaders and main advocates for the school gardens, organizing the gardens plans and involvement of the school, as well as evaluation of needs and progress of the garden. As leaders, they will be our main point of contact with the school and likely reaching out to us for questions, concerns, and garden needs. So we will ask them for timely communication when working with us and specify preferred channels of communication like phone or email. And this is mainly because we need to know the main point of contact for scheduling visits, scheduling workshops, communication, when providing resources and arranging campus access or visits. The school district's role involves to provide support to the schools that have gardens. It can be by sharing district resources, such as information on facilities or maintenance plans, or STEM integration, professional development. In some school districts, you may know that have specific farm-to-school people that will be the mainly contact for supporting the school garden at a district level. The school districts can also allow permission and guidance on having a school garden. Some school districts, for example, in Palm Beach County, they have a great network of school gardens with specific guidelines and recommendations to sustain school gardens. So we have to be mindful of those specific guidelines and requirements when working with the schools. Next. The different roles and who does the maintenance of the garden, right? Next. Well, they do, as we all know, many little hands that will be able to help maintaining the garden, weeding, planting, mulching, and next slide. Now, we have different challenges for teachers, and we wanted you to know about them, what to expect when working with the school gardens. Now, the main challenges that you will find at a school, and this slide is specific for challenges with teachers that you might encounter. Okay, so the main challenge is that teachers already have a lot on their plate, so they might be lacking time to get back to you, to coordinate with you, to have a site visit and show around. So the teachers, most of them, for some time that I have been working with them, they really have or start a school garden because they are very passionate about it. It doesn't have to be integrated in their classrooms. They just grew up in a farm, they grew up in the countryside. So they really have this connection and would love to involve their students. So it's a passion that they have and they don't have to do it. So they will, even though they want to do it and it's all up to them, they will be lacking time to maintain and to start a garden. So we hope to support them in any way that we can. The next most important challenge that we wanted to mention is the lack of experience, especially with gardening in Florida, which is very different. So that is where we can support them and educate them on edible gardening, providing them the resources that we have online, but also master gardener volunteers that can really be a huge help for school garden leaders. Others, as you can see, we have different ones to name, and like maintaining the garden, who's going to oversee the garden during school breaks, pest management, food safety recommendations, funding is another main one because teachers really need to get materials and that will be very helpful to maintain the gardens. And plus, add to that the COVID-19 challenges. So it's a very hard situation for teachers, and we will provide you with some of the ideas to overcome these challenges later on so that you understand better the scenario, and it will be ideal to support them by minimizing challenges where you can. Next slide. Now, UF challenges. We also have our own challenges, right? So access to site is one of the main ones that we wanted to touch on. you should be aware of the requirements and guidelines to visit the schools and work with your students. Some school districts require a specific background check level. Others require a connection to the school teacher, a relationship already established with the teacher, or it can always vary county to county. So make sure you always have communication with the school. You will be asked to provide an ID whenever you visit a school, and the people in the reception area should know to expect you. And that usually happens when you have good communication habits in place. Whenever I go to visit a school, I always tell the teacher, please let the receptionist know that I will be there at this day around this time to deliver supplies, and that works very well. I don't usually take more than 15 minutes in a school. And then that takes me to my second most important challenge, which is timely communication, especially for requesting supplies and guidance in the case of FNP. So talk to your school garden leaders on how to best reach you and provide a specific time frame to do so, because we are all busy. So for example, I always request my teachers to contact me for any needs of gardening materials 2 weeks in advance, so that I have time to deliver the supplies on whenever they need it. It will also be helpful to have a second point of contact in case it is hard to reach the main point of contact at your school, specifically, like I said, when people leave the school. And the last challenge that I wanted to mention, because again, we have many, is the share of staff. So we can only do that much, right? And we unfortunately cannot be at all school gardens, even though I would love to, but we can strategize our work and partner with other organizations that can also provide support to school gardens. In my region, in the Southeast region, we have American Heart Association, who also have this program teaching gardens and can provide resources to school gardens. We have Florida Ag in the Classroom, who can work in any county with any schools. We have 4-H agents. So work with your partnerships, and so that we can spread and support. Next slide.
So a few of the challenges that the schools face and the challenges that we face on the UF side, a lot when it comes to like the teachers' lack of time, and with UF, with sometimes if we're short-staffed or we've kind of met our capacity, the master gardeners can be really invaluable to helping make the involvement with school gardens easier. So, and I can say, we'll talk a little bit about like framework, but to me, having master gardeners involved is really helpful for that, because sometimes they may be more stable. I've seen fluctuation on the school side and fluctuation on the UF side, and sometimes that master gardener is the person that's spending the time to keep that communication open and re-identify to that site, and make it known that that we are still around to help them. So master gardeners are excellent. They can share UF resources, provide education, whether it's direct to the students or just helping the teacher troubleshoot, or offer, I have some master gardeners that teach edible gardening to other master gardeners and teachers. So they can really run the gamut. Depending on the resources in your county, sometimes master gardeners may actually provide mini grants to school garden projects that they're affiliated with. And if those aren't available, they may be able to, kind of help scour what local businesses or what other grants from associations and things may be available for a school garden. So they can help. So maybe the teacher doesn't have time to look up some of that information, but maybe there's a master gardener that would be willing to. And so they would be connecting with community resources and offering, also encouraging some community interest. So again, I can say that, so like an example would be one of our elementary schools. The STEM teacher used to incorporate the school garden as part of her curriculum, but when she retired, the incoming STEM teacher did not want to do that. And so the STEM teacher, as a retired, school volunteer, was able to continue on with the master gardener that had been supporting the school, and they do it as an after-school club. So the garden is still there for the school to enjoy at large, but it's the education and the maintenance is taken care of by the retired teacher and the master gardener in the after-school setting. And family nutrition program has been helpful, in my program to provide support as much as we can. So sometimes that master gardener is invaluable. And there's another school this year with COVID, there was a turnover of one position at one of the elementary schools 3 times over. And the master gardener was able to go on site after school to help those new teachers understand how to keep some basic maintenance of that school garden space, because the master gardener couldn't be there during the day with the students. So if you are encouraging master gardeners to participate with school gardens, I got up in front of master gardeners at a quarterly meeting, and I asked them to raise their hand if they liked working with kids. I got about 2 hands. I asked them to raise their hands if they liked working with vegetables, and I got about 2 hands, and there wasn't really much of an overlap. And so I can say that was not an effective approach. What I have seen work much better is actually master gardeners recruiting other master gardeners. Instead of getting 2 hands, they might get 8 or 10. And also offering opportunity for master gardeners to kind of mentor other master gardeners or volunteers. And even sometimes our staff, if there's been changes, they like to, have that hands-on. What I've noticed is people want to have a little bit of a hands-on experience before they go out to a site by themselves. So if you have any kind of opportunity to allow for some shadowing at any kind of level, even if it's a mock planting, at your office in the form of like a workshop before you go to a site, that's very helpful. But if you are looking for master gardeners that you want to have help support with school gardens, more than any edible gardening experience, I would suggest that they enjoy working with kids. So then I think it's easier for them to gain a background in growing vegetables than it is for them to spontaneously start enjoying working with children. And they would be representing University of Florida when they're out in the field. And we want to make sure that it's a pleasant experience for the kids. And so it's easier if you're recruiting people that enjoy kids. That they would be a good communicator and adaptable. So they would need to understand the workload of what teachers are encountering on a daily basis. And also, from the extension side of things too, that sometimes there are capacity conundrums, if you will. And so if they can keep communication lines open, but also be adaptable with some changes when they need to occur, and communicate those in a positive light, that can be really helpful in maintaining relationships and keeping people willing to come back to the table, even if there's a pause in operation of a school garden. So ways that you can support a school garden and help create some sustainability and resilience is if you can have any kind of framework that you can establish. So is there a pattern, so Carlita mentioned, if a garden was to need supplies, she would be sharing, well, this is the parameter or timeline that, that I need to be able to make this happen for you. So clearly communicating if there's availability of supplies, grants, availability of people support, whether it's a master gardener, family nutrition program, extension. Are you offering a class? Is there a time component involved? And we can educate. So the more that we can educate the folks that are at the sites, the more sustainable it can be. So training the trainer about edible gardening and how to tend a garden and activities that they can do with kids in the garden. We also do have that direct education opportunity where we can reach the youth directly. We can share the curriculum resources. So that way, hopefully that teacher isn't the only person. So that can help take it from a classroom garden to a school garden where you have more people using that space, and the more people that are using that space, the more people to support that space and provide some continuity if there is a change in staff. We can also help with things like site evaluation, so they can troubleshoot and decide, okay, is this where a garden should go? Is it close to the water access, that type of thing? Is there going to be runoff from anywhere? So we can help with site evaluations. And even during like COVID, you could potentially have them send pictures and have it, reviewed online. So I think one of the main things we can do is be supportive and offer engagement opportunities just to kind of keep that interest going, because they will have, teachers will have pulls on their time for things. They have a lot of standards and things that they have to meet. So if we can also communicate what expectations, like what to expect. So I noticed like master gardeners really love to have some information about what it is that they're walking into. So just like if you had a site evaluation above and you can communicate to a master gardener, this is the size of the garden, or any information like that, they enjoyed that. Also letting them know what the steps would be for checking in at the site. Would they be required to have a background check in advance, so that way they don't go to a site expecting that they're going to be doing something and realize they actually can't get in. And I have noticed sometimes within our district how the background check or the check-in, how deeply they need that to be done can sometimes vary by site. So knowing that in advance is important. And also I think with some of the child centers, they may require a deeper background check. And so that would be important to know. So communicating any of those expectations and steps that may involve the master gardener, providing a little bit more time and communication and pre-planning is really helpful. So that way when they want to go and teach or be involved with the site, they have less hurdles to jump to it. So connect everyone with shareable resources. Carlita had already mentioned a few, Jeannie had mentioned a few. So they're between Florida Ag in the Classroom, Junior Master Gardener, Farm to School. There's so many wonderful resources that are available. And if they are a family nutrition program site that is eligible, having the program assistants provide direct education. I've gone to school garden activities and been with some of our program assistants, and the kids are cheering their names. They're so excited that they're there. They learn so much and they remember it. So if you can connect and have education provided by Family Nutrition Program, I highly recommend that you do that if the site is eligible. Share the points of contact. My thought is the more people that are aware of who could potentially come to the table, the better. So if there is any fluctuation in staffing or partnership, hopefully there is someone that would remember who is who, what organization that they could potentially reach out to recreate a connection if they need one. So we already talked about a few of these things. Part of your framework is accessing UF research. Susan Webb, who is a regional garden agent, she has documents, EDIS documents and things of that nature that offer research about school gardens, challenges that you may face, suggestions to work around them. There's training on edible gardening, master gardener volunteers. Their expertise can really run the gamut. And so as much as you can to pull them in, connecting the sites with the grants and supplies, offer opportunities and ideas on how to sustain that space. Sometimes that even is just suggesting ways that they can try to pull in other teachers. Maybe they put some of the Florida Ag in the Classroom books into the like the teacher break area and have it open so teachers see that there's activities that they can do with their kids using the garden. So there's certain things that they can do that, just easy little suggestions that don't take a lot of your time, but it might be something that the teacher had not been aware of. So offering opportunity to network with other gardens, we're kind of doing that here at our level, but if you can offer that opportunity, like Carlita said, there's a district where they have a network that exists amongst the school gardens. For my county, it's kind of our summer workshop. I'll have teacher speakers kind of offer a little bit of a show and tell. Again, sharing out what curriculum exists, who the partners are, and just providing some guidance and those suggestions. And if there are school gardens, please share with them how to close their gardens so they don't come back to a forest when school restarts, because that's kind of a, that's hard to get someone to want to clear out. And that is a way that you could, administration may say, hey, this is a mess, pull this out. So if they close the garden, it's much easier for the teacher and much cleaner when the administration is looking at the space.
Okay, now I wanted to share 2 documents that are very useful when we work with new school gardens. And this is the school garden checklist that we have developed internally. And this has been very helpful for the school garden leaders to think about what they really want for their school gardens, and if they are really taking in consideration all the items that they should. Now, even if the site is not eligible for FMP support, these questions are in this checklist are still good to go over with school garden partners. So to the left side of the screen, it's really a zoom in of the central section of this page, which is school garden checklist. Are you ready to garden? So we go with the school garden leader on thinking about the location of the garden when they are starting one. Do they really have the ideal space for starting a garden, like sunlight, access to water, or approval from the school administration? We also get them thinking about support and maintenance of the garden. We encourage them to think about having a garden committee, having a plan for what is going to happen with the produce that they harvest from the school garden. Like Jeannie mentioned, they cannot sell anything that is grown in the school garden. We tell them, we suggest to have maybe a maintenance schedule, a maintenance plan of who is going to be involved, how frequently is the maintenance of the garden going to happen, and how they will be creating interest from parents and from volunteers. And very importantly, how are they planning to maintain a garden during the breaks? Schools have different breaks, so during winter, spring, or summer breaks, what's going to happen and who is going to oversee the garden? And next slide. The other one that I also like to provide to the school garden leaders is this school garden agreement. Now, this is not a contract, it's just an agreement that we use to get the contact information of the school and who is going to be in charge of it. And we also have specific items on what the school can expect from us, FMP, and what we expect from them. So it's basically timely communication to request supplies and reporting the success of the garden, of the progress of the garden, whenever they need any supplies or whenever there is a change in leadership. And at the end, we provide them with a pledge that they will review and they will sign and date and send back via email to me. And they don't always have to check all of these items. Some of them won't have an idea of what's going to happen during summer breaks. And that is when we go in and we support them and we provide them with ideas and provide what is called technical assistance for them to get started and thinking on the plans for the school gardens. Next, please. So some of the specific examples that have happened before with collaboration of extension agents or master gardener volunteers is that UF staff can provide technical advising to school gardens that FMP support. We can also become supportive advocates for the school garden leaders. We can provide administrative help. Maybe some master gardeners have experience writing grants. We can also, like I mentioned, support the teachers with providing education or workshops about gardening. Some of us would love to volunteer at the garden on our free time. And we can also offer help when harvesting produce, organizing tasting events. And some master gardeners have helped mapping fruit trees in schools. and especially outreach events. I also have a note here that either if you are working at the school garden, you can bring in FMP, or FMP can also bring in extension agents or master gardeners, as long as they qualify for our support. We are the main, while other agencies can be providing nutrition education, we should be the primary nutrition education providers when supporting a school garden. Now, this is a really cool project, activity that we do in October to celebrate the Farm to School month, like Jeannie mentioned, and it's the Florida Crunch. It's a tasting event where we get students at the school cafeteria to try a new vegetable or fruit. And this is a great example of collaboration in Broward County with the urban horticulture agents and the master gardeners. We provide an educational section. And in this case, last year, we had celery. And the master gardeners were showing the kids all of the stages of the celery, from seed to a whole vegetable. And it was really cool. We had a chef invited, and this was pre-COVID-19. Now, I forgot to add another picture, but it was the virtual crunch that happened. And we did it through Zoom for a whole school, and we crunched on corn. We had an extension agent coming in and talk to us about the production of corn in Florida, and it was another great educational opportunity. Next. And this is another great example that we had in Broward County, where due to the pandemic, FMP was able to get approval to get gardening grow kits, which are the picture on your left, and basically soil in a Ziploc bag, seeds in a coin envelope, and a coconut covered container that students who receive nutrition education could take home and start the seeds at home. The plan was for them to return these seedlings to the school garden, but in Broward County we did a different approach, and we did an extension, and we call this project Introducing Urban Gardening to Broward Schools. I don't know if Lorna's going to talk about this, but I just wanted to mention that this was a great collaboration example where master gardeners created this version of earth boxes, and they call it self-watering container projects. And they were going to be the expansion of the grow kits, the continuation, so that the seedlings that they started at home could be transferred into these self-watering buckets at the school and add more to the school garden in Sheridan Park Elementary School in Broward County. Next slide. Oh, now over to you, Mindy.
Thank you, Carlita. So we've been talking about ways that we can participate with school gardens, and also ways that the master gardeners can participate. And so I can give a little bit of example of Sarasota in that, so one of our master gardeners, actually the one that I mentioned earlier that does the after school site, being seasonal, there are certain things that he can even do from a distance. So we distribute plants and seeds twice a year based on the kind of around the school calendar. And so I share with him what varieties we plan on offering and a rough count. And then a lot of our school gardens started out with 4 beds of 4x4. Some of them are still that in their classroom garden size. And then there are some school gardens that they may have 18 beds. So the amount of plants I give to each can vary, but he kind of comes up with this template. And what this does is it helps that inertia of, I have the plants, now what do I do? So if it's a master gardener that maybe they don't know a lot about edible planting, or a newer family nutrition program staff, plus you're at a site and surrounded by kids. So it's helpful just having a little bit of a template, and they are not expected that they have to follow all of this. It's just to give them a guide and give them an idea of suggestions of where they may want to place their vegetables. And it's incredibly helpful. So some of the site, and it came in really handy. We started doing this prior to COVID, but it came in really handy for the sites that came and did their pickup. And a lot of these school garden teachers are guiding their own planting at that point. They felt like they had information and what they needed to do the planting on their own, which was really helpful. And this came, this would have taken me quite a bit of time to put together, and the master gardener, who knows more about edibles, did a great job, and comes in really handy, and he can do that from his home out of state too. So when we talk about like replicable model, on the previous slide, how I mentioned about a lot of the schools start with like 4 beds of a 4x4, and then they can adjust from there. So one of the other things that's kind of part of our framework, because there are quite a few school gardens. So I would say in a normal season, we provide some level of support to about 45 schools. Whether that's materials, education, some level of instruction, resources, workshop, whatnot. At some point, about 45 sites participate, and we provide, plant materials, seeds, and some of that written material, like you saw, twice a year, and we orient that to the school calendar. Because, like, we're talking about school breaks, and of course we grow during dry season. We try. I can't say this is completely successful, but we try to have the supplies of the fall ready end of September, early October. And with the goal that we're doing like short data harvest type of crops that they hopefully would be able to start harvesting prior to the holiday break. But I know that many of them come back in January, and if the plants are still growing, they just kind of keep them going until we replace them and do plantings again, usually in February. And then they, grow them, and around April, May, we send out information on, reminders on how to close their garden. And that way so unless they're doing on-site school activity for the summer and they have people that they know are really dedicated to growing, it's best if they close the beds. And so before the holiday break and or in spring, there's harvest lessons. A lot of times the family nutrition program is involved. They will participate and provide those harvest lessons. And then for some of the family nutrition program sites, like those that are not eligible, I pair with a family consumer science agent, and we go out and do some harvest lessons at some of the schools. So the depth of our reach is really going to vary depending on the school interest and what our capacity is between the master gardeners and our staff. And normally sometimes we even do on-site plantings for up to 26 sites in the fall and again in the spring. And that really wouldn't be achievable without family nutrition program and also with our master gardeners. So ways that you can help promote resiliency. We've talked about a few of these things already, but if you have like a little bit of a template, if you utilize things like that FMP checklist that Carlita showed, even if it's not an FMP eligible site, a lot of that checklist is really helpful. Identifying resources for people, sharing out useful curricula, train the trainer, opportunities where people can gain that knowledge and have some hands-on practice as much as possible. And so then that way, if there is a deficit or a change in the framework, usually it's kind of propped up and held up long enough until you can bring everybody back together to fully function again. So, so that's kind of the goal with having some level of framework and communicating that.
Oh, that's me. Okay, so as you have heard throughout the presentation, having a framework when working with the school gardens will help them to be more resilient. And so consider have a replicable model at different school gardens that you support. Offer or attend trainer opportunities, connect school gardens to relevant curricula, create plans with your school garden leaders on what will happen with these gardens in the future. Like bed frames can be recycled, tools can be shared among classes or schools. Encourage teachers to have a committee or a designated teacher backup. Whenever possible, also have an agreement or written expectation as we share with you, and as I see in the chat, many of you agree on having, and help these school garden leaders develop community partners and get community donations, because that also will support their sustainability. Next. And going to the end of the presentation, we are here to support school gardens. So gardens are seen as relevant in the schools because they can connect to curricula and Florida standards. And we have different reasons to support the school gardens, and we review the benefits for supporting them. So we truly think we are a great asset to the school gardens as extension agents, as master gardeners, as FNP staff. And it's always important to empower school staff with trainings when available. For example, we, in partnership with the Florida Ag in the Classroom, we developed a statewide training for school garden leaders called the School Garden Leadership Training that is launching again in October. So please consider providing those resources to your school garden leaders, developing a framework about materials and resources, communication expectations. So as we all know, we shouldn't be the primary tenders of the gardens, specifically for UF staff, but we can always support our teachers and our school gardens on the best way that we can. And I think that's the end of the presentation, and you will, in the next slide, you will see our contact information for any questions that you may have, and we can answer some in the next 5 minutes, I guess.
That was fantastic. Awesome job, Mindy and Carlita. I mean, excellent, excellent. Just exactly what we needed to kind of talk about building that sustainability, creating leaders, creating confidence, you know, solidifying that agreement, that partnership. So I'm hoping that we generate some good questions. If you notice that Jeannie did put the documents in the, dropped them in the chat box for the agreement and for the site evaluation, or are you ready for a school garden? So what questions do we have for these two experts? You can unmute yourself or drop in the chat. Guys, I was stepping in and out, and so I'll ask a question. What do you do, and how do you help create that plan for the off season, for that summer? And if you talked about that, forgive me, but if you wouldn't mind kind of reviewing that.
I can say so on our webpage for like if you put in search engine, or I can put a link in later in the chat, like Sarasota County IFAS, putting your garden to bed, there's a YouTube video link that my predecessor kindly created with some of the community gardeners and master gardeners on different ways to put a garden to bed. So it's useful for community and school gardens. And because teachers are tight on time, when I send that out as an email, I kind of tell them the timestamp of what I think is most relevant for them. Or I just kind of put nuggets in print of ways that they can close their garden. So whether they're layering with a lot of cardboard and covering it with pine needles, or if they have other materials that they want to use, it can vary. But the coverings hold up a lot better at the school gardens than they do at the community gardens, because they're not, because the school garden beds aren't closed as long as some of those that are in community gardens. So just kind of giving them an idea of how they could go about covering it up. Some during normal years, some master gardeners, if they have a lot of involvement at a school, they may participate and help them close up their garden. But that's not always the case. And there may be cases where Family Nutrition Program has done the same too. But we try to steer away from some of that if we can, because if they get used to us always doing it, then it's harder for them to do it if we can't be there, like with COVID.
Good.
And if they don't have question, real quick, you had mentioned about watering, the challenges with watering, and I think that's a common one. And so like, I know one of our schools, the teacher lead is working with special education students, and they love creating a watering schedule and sharing that out. And so they create the water schedule, and they designate their fellow classmates or classes to take part in that watering. And they feel really empowered that they got to create that schedule, and the other classes feel excited they get to participate in the garden a little bit. And sometimes that's just going out there and setting up the sprinkler and turning it So the watering system is going to vary at each site, but there's ways around it. But a lot of it's just knowing that you do need to water during dry season is a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Jeannie, did you want to add anything?
The only thing I wanted to add is that one of the cool things I've seen recently is like also giving kind of empowering students to make their own rules about the garden. Like that's always something that's like a teaching engagement activity is if there's a way to have a whiteboard or some sort of sign outside or that a teacher could push out every day. I don't know, like however they could do it, but even having something maybe in their classroom to say, these are the garden rules. I think that's a really popular education best practice that I've seen used over the years. And then the other piece is like to go to that watering, the scheduling piece, like having a schedule, like it just empowers the students to know that they have an activity that they have to do every week. And also we are working on, currently we're going to be rolling out, it's like a Gardens with a Goal toolkit to have like a schedule of plants to grow in. We're starting out with like a salad garden, but having like salad garden, salsa garden, just having a goal for the teachers to plant specific plants in order to be able to calendar it out so they know exactly when they can do a harvest party too, is something I think is important when we're working with teachers to kind of help with their schedules, as you know, Carlita and Mindy kind of showed at the very beginning some of the limitations that teachers have. And thank you so much, Carlita and Mindy, for that wonderful presentation.
It was really, really excellent. And so, Jeannie, they asked, Laura Valencia asked if you would drop the docs in the chat box again. And Mindy shared the putting the garden to bed video in there, which is how I talk about it too. So that's good. That's great. So guys, I'm going to start. We were supposed to go right in at 11 o'clock with activities, but I feel like we probably could use a stretch break, a little bio break. So let's come back at 11:05 and we'll get started with the next presentation. Okay, see you in 5. Okay. Okay, everybody, it's 5 after. Hopefully you have returned, and if you haven't, we will catch you up here in a minute. So again, my name is Wendy Wilbur. I'm the State Master Gardener Volunteer Coordinator, and I have been reinvigorated about the Junior Master Gardener Volunteer curriculum. They have new curriculum out, and just kind of thinking a lot about activities that can be brought into school gardens. So I want to thank our presenters up to this point, and I really appreciate your time and effort in putting together some really great presentations. So this is the hands-on time that we would have at our in-service training. So imagine that we're all in the same room together, and you are going to get your hands-on activities to have a little bit of fun. Okay, so some of the Junior Master Gardener activities that are my favorites are going to be shared with you today, but also I wanted to tell you a couple of my favorites that aren't shared, and these are kind of cool ones. One is called the Secret Smells game, and basically it's in the insect or the entomology chapter, and we talk to kids about how we communicate with one another and how insects communicate with one another. And one of the ways insects communicate with one another is through pheromones or through smells. So what we do to facilitate this game is to get the little sauce cups from the paper plate aisle and take a cotton swab and scent it with extracts or essential oils. So you could use peppermint or cinnamon or lemon or lavender or any kind of a strong smell. And what you do is you create them in pairs. So if you have 20 kids, you would create 10 pairs of different smells. And then you tell them that they are like insects now and that they are going to communicate through the sense of smell, and that they have to be extremely quiet, and you have to find your match. So you have one cinnamon that goes to Julio and one cinnamon that goes to Laura, and across a crowded room they have to smell all the different containers around the room without talking, which is hard for kids, but they do it. And then they find their match, and once they find their match, they stand off to the corner. So it's interesting to see how quickly it goes and how people then communicate with hand gestures and nodding their head or shaking their head. And so this is a really inexpensive, fun game. It's a great activator, and it gets the kids using the different scents. And one of the things I really like about this is that we know that the sense of smell kind of is glued in your memory a little bit better. And so this game is a game that the kids really can remember and think about it. And it's fun. And the conference that Jeannie and I went back in February, we did this in a room with about 300 people. And we all had to find our groups. Actually, they did a group of about 6 or 8 or 10 people together. So all of us had the same smell. And so if you are looking for an activity to break your students into groups for group activities, this is a good one too. Or if you're looking for a way to break people into a pair so that they could also work on an activity together, this is a neat way to do that. And then to also just teach about insects, communication, and pheromones. So Pat says she loves this. That's good. Has anyone ever done this one before? Give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box. Beth has done it with 4-H. Yep. Mindy says it looks great. Good. Oh, she's never seen it before. Okay, well, it's in your Junior Master Gardener curriculum. So, and another activity that I really like is one called Gas Gobblers. And we do this in the, I believe we do this in the environmental chapter or one of the introductory chapters, and this is to demonstrate the interdependence on plants and animals. And so what we do is we have 4 bottles of bubbles and wands, and you can have construction paper and have the students become different animals in the rainforest if you want, or they could just be humans that need oxygen. And what you do is you select 4 students to be your bubble blowers, and they are going to be our trees. And I usually create a scene that we're going to be in the rainforest, and we'll talk about the importance of the rainforest and those trees releasing oxygen, and that the are releasing oxygen, and that the animals are going to take that oxygen and bring back carbon dioxide, which the trees are going to absorb. So the kids, I usually try to pick tall kids because they're going to be the tall trees blowing bubbles. And so the 4 trees blow the bubbles, and all the animals in the rainforest, they pop the bubbles. And I say, okay, you're going to need 10 bubbles to survive, 10 bubbles of oxygen. So they clap it. So we're outside and it's very active. And then we have a deforestation event happen, and we cut down one of the trees. So that child is removed from bubble blowing, and now we have 3 trees producing oxygen. And again, the students are clapping the bubbles. They still need 10, but it's a little bit harder to get them. And then we have another deforestation accident happen or event happen. So now we're down to 2 trees, same amount of animals. Well, actually, we probably lost a few animals because they couldn't get their 10. But then the next group of animals still has to pop 10 bubbles, but less oxygen is coming out. So we lose some animals. And so it's kind of sad. It's a sad story, but they're learning about conservation. And then we lose one more tree, and we are left with 1 tree producing a lot of bubbles. And that tree's working really hard to get bubbles out to all his friends, and they're trying to clap their 10 bubbles. And then we lose some more animals because not everybody can get all the bubbles. And then at the very end, we have a final deforestation event that happens, and we lose our last tree. And then the kids that are left who need oxygen say, but how are we going to breathe? We need the oxygen. And so then we have a very hard conversation about deforestation and losing trees, and the relationship and the interdependence on trees and animals and oxygen. So have you ever seen that one before? Might be a little tragic for young groups, but it's something to consider. Yeah, it's a good one. And the kids, they love to play with bubbles, and they love to get outside and get active. So it's fun. Okay, thank you, Pat, for answering. All right, so the first activity that I want to do with you all is your know and show sombrero bag. So if you'll find, those of you who have your packet, find your know and show sombrero. Okay, so in your bag, and if you could turn on your video cameras, this would make it a lot more fun. So in your bag, I want you to pull out, okay, some sparkles just fell out for me. I want you to pull out your newspaper, okay? And again, Wendy's going with stuff on the head. So unfurl the newspaper so it's kind of wide and make a cross. I hope this works. And so we're going to put the newspaper on our head like that. Okay, we're going to form it to our head. And then we're going to get our roll of tape out. Everybody got a roll of tape. My sparkles are stuck to my tape. And open your tape up if possible. Too bad I didn't do this before. Use your teeth if necessary. Oh, looking good, Laura. Okay, got your tape started. Put your paper on your head. And then, oh, good job, Taylor. And then take your tape and wrap it around your head. Now we do this usually with a teacher and a facilitator, but we're all extension professionals, so we know how to do this. So around the head it goes, forming to your skull. Making somewhat of a hat. Pat, yours is looking good. Julio's done this before. Katie is doing great. Okay. Then cut your tape if possible, or rip it. Okay. So now you take it off. Oh, it was loud in there. Take it off and you've got this, and then you roll up the sides. Making a little hat. Making like a garden hat. I'm going to stop share just for a second so you get a better image of me doing this. You can imagine how much fun this is with kids, because it also is a lot of fun with adults. Okay. Now I have a little garden hat. Good. Oh, Kim. Kim is creative and I love her. All right, Pat. Katie, how's it going? Good. Katie's looks good. Awesome. Okay, so you can see from your instructor, this is kind of what your hat is supposed to look like. And then what we want the students to do is to take off their, oh, Julio, that's like a fedora, man. That looks so good. Good job. Okay, then you take off the hat, and what we want to do is then tape or glue, and I could have sent you a glue stick, but I didn't. So we're going to tape, and you're going to tape the things that plants need to grow, okay? And so your students will find things that plants need to grow in their bag, and you can imagine you can put all kinds of things in there, but I'm going to go ahead and start taping items to my hat that plants need to grow, okay? And I would encourage you to do the same. So open up your little bag of tricks there and go ahead and start taping those things on and making a beautiful sombrero. And be prepared to talk about it in a few moments. And I was going to play some music for you, but I still might. Okay, so we're working on our sombreros. We got some pipe cleaners in there. Kim, I like your attitude. Looking good, Ashley. Okay, I gotta hurry. We're getting there. Just a few more minutes, okay, guys? Again, for Ticey and Jose, I hope no clients walk in while you're doing this. Cherie taped some of her hair. Yes, that happens. Okay, who's about ready to present? Anybody? Okay. So Kim, please unmute yourself and tell me what we've done.
Well, we didn't have our packet, so
Right.
I I ran and got some tissue paper, and I've got seeds on the desk from our PRD gardens. These were donated seeds from Ace Hardware. And watering's the big issue in our after-school gardens. I stress responsibility of the kids. So I pulled out the hose from my garden bag. And one thing I've learned in our after-school gardens, the kids love herbs. They're immediate, very sensory. I've actually incorporated learning about diversity with the seeds. Here, let me pose.
Good, good, good.
And you know, so some herbs kids like I don't like cilantro, other people do. And so it's a good way to incorporate like different lessons. But they love, somewhere on my head are nasturtiums. And I had one little girl, those kids would strip those plants, eat those flowers. And so I don't plant anything in the garden that they can't eat.
Mhm.
And another thing I do is we do a lot of free form planting so that I can incorporate plant identification. So they have to determine, is this a plant coming up or a weed? Is it a tomato, a carrot, a radish? But so I got my water, my
Your seeds. Awesome.
seeds,
Good,
my
good.
sunshine.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Linda, yours is looking pretty awesome over there. Why don't you unmute and tell us what you got going on? You're still muted. Okay. No, I can't hear you. All right. I'm going to move over to Julio. Let me see your hat, Julio. Oh, Linda's ready now. Okay, Julio, real quick, unmute yourself. Okay, Linda's ready. Hold on. Linda, go ahead. Tell me what you got going on. Well, she's still muted. Okay, Laura Valencia, unmute yourself and tell, oh my gosh, yours is just a thing of beauty.
So my know and show will be, this is a field of flowers. So the pom-poms represent the different flowers. And then you can see so it will be like a bug representing the bug and the importance of pollinators.
Beautiful. Awesome. Good, good. Jamie, what do you have going on?
So I went with the picture and telling you what stuff was. So I have my nutrients all around my head so they're accessible. And then I've got my sunshine and some extra things going on. And since I didn't have something to represent soil, I'm an airplane.
Sounds good. Taylor, I see something on your head. It's a dingle ball action. Is that a laborer? Who is that working?
It is, well, for my garden, I was thinking about like how gardens require balance, a balance of nutrients, sunlight, moisture. So I put a garden scale on my head.
Oh, okay, good, good, good. Linda, are you back with us yet? Not yet, not yet. Okay, Julio, let me hear about you.
I got, sorry, pollinator, butterfly, sun, and then you can't really see it, but my cloud has a little bit of rain.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, and Pat, did I see you come up with yours, Pat Bonus?
Hi guys, well I made a couple little butterflies and bugs here, but they all seem to be falling off. I love my little sun. I'm trying my best. My hat's having some malfunctions, but it's all good. I got a couple bugs. I got a couple different flowers. And like I said, my things are falling off. What a fun activity.
Jeannie says we need rain hats. Katie McCormick, you want to tell me about yours?
I just liked all the sequins you provided, so I put as many sequins on as
You
possible.
know,
They're
I haven't
shaped
shown
like
you mine, but I
leaves
did
and
exactly.
flowers, so
Yes, good, good. And Linda, did we get you talking yet? Linda's gonna have to write in the chat. Who else would like to tell us about their sombrero?
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yay! I hope it was worth the wait. Let's hear it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go for it.
Okay. All right. I made antennas to represent a bug in the garden.
Uh-huh.
And I put some brown in the front to represent the soil and fertilizer.
Good.
And I put orange on top for nutrients, and I put brown, a yellow to represent the sun for sunlight. And I think this is hysterical. And I have done this with my students before, and it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know, I've done it several times, but I had forgotten how much fun it is. So sometimes I think we need to get reminded of the fun, right? Okay, awesome job. Let's give ourselves a hand. Good job, everybody.
Good job.
Okay, our next one is the bug sucker. Okay, so let me grab my bug sucker. And hopefully you got one. If you haven't, so you can use a film canister to do this. Some people use different, the original ones I did was a film canister. So what this is actually is an insect aspirator. And I bet Katie McCormick uses this in her research sometimes. So let me see. Can you see that the insect goes in the long part and then your lips go on the short part? Some of you got straws and some of you got tubing. So if you can't find this aquarium tubing, which is available at Amazon.com, or it's also available usually at Walmart. And Laura used paper coffee cups. That's cool too, with the lid on it. Good, but you got to have a tight seal. So if you got to have a tight seal with your straw and your tubing. So what I provided for you was a piece of cheesecloth in here, because if you don't loop off your your intake, you will suck a bug down your throat. And so we do not want to do that. So what I like to do is take my cheesecloth and I wrap it, and then you can use putty, but what I like to do is use just a little baby rubber band. So like a ponytail rubber band or just a little office rubber band will work. And I have a little rubber band here. And I think I might have mentioned that you needed that on your material sheet. So wrap your rubber band around your cheesecloth, and so it doesn't come off. And then if you would like to go outdoors or find something in your office to suck up, you can even suck up some of the sparkles that I put in your No One Show sombrero. Looks like the stars are small enough. But at this point, we send the kids out to outdoors, and they go out and they start looking for insects. And then they realize sometimes it's kind of hard to find those insects. But normally they find ants, small ants, or very small beetles. So let's see if you can suck up something, and take a few minutes to try to suck something up, and then let me know how it goes. That's
So-
our gut stuff.
Wendy, it's Jamie. I did this once with a group of college students, and it was the first time I'd ever done it. And there was alcohol involved as well to sedate the insects. And one of my students used it backwards, and I ended up accidentally sucking up pure alcohol and insects.
I love the cautionary tales from Lake County. This is excellent. Thank you, Jamie Lynn. Okay, so I'm gonna go outdoors and catch a ant. I'll be right back. Okay, how's it going? Did anybody get any ants? Pat, did you catch one? Katie caught an ant. Awesome. I caught an ant. Taylor's still out catching.
I did not catch one. My little container got smashed in shipping, so it's not really working.
Oh, so, and that just shows that it has to be a tight seal. It really does.
I can't get nothing, but I'll try it again with Kim at 4-H and Jennifer down there. We'll try it again in a better container.
Okay. So
thanks.
What I like about these is that this is pretty inexpensive that you can get, but those film canisters are also good too. So this is a good one. Okay. So next up we have the Metamorphosis bracelet. So, you know, when I would do this with classes, we talked about in the entomology chapter, we talk about incomplete metamorphosis and complete metamorphosis. Okay, so complete metamorphosis includes the resting stage of that. Well, it includes the caterpillar and the pupa, as well as the egg and the adult. And so what we do here is you get your packet out if you got one, and you can put in as many spacer beads as you want, but I was always concerned a little bit about the young men in my class. You know, are the boys gonna like this or not? And so when I went out and bought beads, I tried to buy some beads that were a little bit more, not as sparkly or a little less showy to represent. But in the end, everybody loved to make the same bracelet. And the boys wore it too. So it was or if they didn't want to, they said, oh, they would give it to their mom or their sister or another female relative or a friend. So the first thing you do is you tie a knot at the base of your string, and then you string your first bead, which is, I like to use a spacer bead to start with. And then find in your bag a bead that looks like an egg. And for most of you, I think you got a little pearl looking bead. Okay. I think, Pat, that one is the pupa. I want that to be your pupa or your cocoon. That's your caterpillar. Did you find it yet? Nope.
Wendy, are you calling the flower beads the spacer beads?
Yeah, the flower beads are the spacer beads. Yep. So put on a spacer bead and then put on a rounder bead that looks like an egg. And you know what, Pat, if you want to use the pupa for your egg, that's fine, because, and this is another discussion, you got it. But this is another discussion to have with the kids, because different insect species have very different looking eggs and caterpillars and cocoons or chrysalis, as well as adult forms. So they can make it up. They can be creative. We're not going to hone them in and make them do exactly what I say. But this is the suggested evolution, or the suggested sequence of the egg, spacer bead, larva, which in many cases was a turquoise piece, and then spacer bead, then the pupa of the crystal, or kind of a chunky one that's sort of closed off, spacer bead, and then the adult. And I really love teaching metamorphosis. And in one of my junior master gardener day camps, we wrote a play. And we had the kids act out the different stages, and it was really fun. So we brought in exercise balls, the balls that you sit and bounce on, and those were the eggs, and the kids kind of talked about what it was like to be an egg. And then we had, I had the next group of caterpillars wear striped shirts. So they look like stripy caterpillars. And they talked about how hungry they were. And we had construction paper leaves, and they pretended to eat the leaves. And then for the cocoon or the chrysalis, we had sleeping bags. And the kids all got into sleeping bags and talked about how they were changing. And then when they emerged, we had lots of butterfly wings, and then they kind of told the story about visiting the butterfly wings and visiting the flowers to get the nectar and to help with pollination. So you can have a lot of fun teaching the life cycle of insects, but I really like to have the metamorphosis bracelet, because then the kids wear it throughout the rest of the time with you for that lesson, and then you ask them to go home and tell their mom and dad about the life cycle of that insect, and so then they can teach with their bracelets. What do you think? How does it look? Julio, I saw you stringing, so I know you did it. Oh, it looks good. Good job. You got a masculine one. I think I did that one on purpose. So good. All right. So the next one I want to show you. Oh, Taylor, let me see. How did you do that? Oh, I know what it's hanging on.
It's hanging on my light.
Awesome. That looks so good.
So that's an office decoration.
Good deal. And and then you could also tell the kids, it could be a decoration. It could be for the Christmas tree. It could hang off of a fan pool. So there's different things they can do with it. All right, the next one to talk about is the plant people. Okay, we've done no one shows sombrero, bug sucker, metamorphosis bracelet. The last one is the plant people. And this is a great lesson to share with kids. So what you need for this is, and I'm sorry for all the plastic, you guys, please reuse these bags, okay? What you need for this is a package of seeds, and you want it to be annual rye seeds because we need something that's going to sprout super quick. And usually they sell this in the fall season at your garden center. So I just got this the other day, so they still have them back there, but it's in the seed area. You want to have some, what do we call this stuff? The brown stuff?
Soil.
Thank you, Pat, for not saying dirt. I appreciate that. You knew I was setting you up, right? So you got your soil. In this case, it's a nice medium. And then a knee high. And for those of you who are younger than me, ladies used to have to wear stockings. We don't have to wear them anymore. Thank God. But we would wear these stockings on our feet. Ugh, they're horrible, especially in Florida. But they're good for crafts. So what we want you to do is to take your seeds. Oh, and some googly eyes, right? I bought 100 googly eyes. I love them. Now these seeds are treated, so we want to be careful. So with the kids, if you could find untreated ones, that would be good if we're going to be taking them. Yes, Julio. Julio, I'll give you some so you don't have to go to the store and buy them. You can get them on Amazon though. Okay, so what we want you to do is to dump your seeds at the bottom of the knee high. You gotta do that first, okay? Oh boy, it's spilling all over the place, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right, I got them all in there. Phew, that was not easy. Okay, so the seeds are at the bottom of the sock now. And then, likewise, you're going to put the soil at the bottom of the sock.
This is crazy.
Okay. And of course, I'm doing this at my desk. Ideally, with the kids, we would have a table prepared and have it ready to get dirty a little bit, right?
This is a mess.
Yeah, this may be an outside activity, guys. Okay. But we can't Zoom outside. We're doing the best we can.
If you put the bag all the way into the stocking and then turn it inside out and then pull the bag out carefully, it's less dirt.
That's what's working for me, Katie. But thank you for the suggestion. Okay.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Okay. Here we are. So I've got the soil, I've got the sock, and now I'm going to try to form a ball.
Can you do this so I don't have to get dirt all over?
Yeah. You can do it later.
Can you just dump
Linda.
this? Can you just dump? Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me mute myself. Hold on. I gotta.
Listen, I appreciate your dedication. Okay. So now we've got like a little ball, and what I want you to do is to tie it off, right? Tie it off. That's funny. We couldn't hear Linda for the longest time, and now we heard her. Okay. So tie off a knot so we have like a little head, right? Isn't that looking good? And is it a mess? You should see my keyboard destroyed. Okay, luckily we can clean up later. Okay, so we've got our little ball here, and I only have one googly eye because I gave all of mine away to you guys. So I'm going to put my one googly eye on. And so I'm going to have a cyclops. And so he goes there, and I would recommend, like they did here in the, here, let me share the screen with you. Okay, so on the shared screen, you can see that they use yogurt cups. And I really like the yogurt cup because that's a great way to reuse, you know, so if you could collect your yogurt cups, so they had YoPlay cups seem to work very well. You could also use even a coffee cup, or originally in JMG, they had you use a soda can, which I didn't like so much because they seemed a little tippy, but the yogurt cups have a lower center of gravity. So I really like that one. And so presto changeo, it only takes a few days, y'all. Here he is, all sprouted. I did this about a week ago. So the grass sprouts and grows. Let me see if I can get him in there. And you can see he or she is in a cup with some water down at the bottom. You got to keep the cup in there. So plant people you can talk about what plants need to grow. You can talk about how seeds germinate. You can actually see in this guy, his roots are growing, so they can see the bottom, the roots, the shoots. They can talk about what if they wanted to give a haircut or name him. So this is a great activity. I love this. This is usually a nice first day activity, especially if you're doing a camp, because then the next time you see them, if you have these even in a bright window, these will go ahead and germinate and grow. What else could you teach with this activity? What else could you think you could teach? How not to make a mess, right? What do you think?
Teamwork, because it's a lot easier to get the soil in if you have somebody hold it open for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so, Jamie, if we were going to do this at if we were doing this at a real in-service, I probably would have had like a soup ladle and a big bowl of soil, and you would have scooped it, put it in there, turned it, or you could have done it outside. So this is really fun. I love the rye, and you could, you could imagine the kids getting creative, maybe creating beards or creating different styles with their guys. So, and then in always the kids want to give them a haircut and play barber. So you let them give them a haircut and name them. And so this is their plant person, and they can take it home with them and enjoy, and then also tell the story at home that they sprouted the seeds and that they grew something in their gardening class. So. Oh my gosh, Linda, I love it. Oh, Jamie, I love it. Good job. Taylor, everybody got creative. Good job. All right. This is a lot of fun. And you could even see this being fun as I don't even like a birthday takeaway or something like that. Okay. So those are some of the activities I wanted to share with you before lunch today. We finished up a little bit early, but I hope that we talked about the gas gobblers. We talked about the smell ascent. We talked about no one shows sombrero, the bug sucker, the metamorphosis bracelet, and plant people. So these are 6 activities, hopefully, that you could get going. And I really could see you doing these type of activities with your Master Gardener volunteers, with your 4-H volunteers, with your FNP folks, that you kind of get together and practice these activities together. And then when you bring them out to the kids, you have a lot of enthusiasm. And because this is supposed to be fun, you know, we think about, what do we want these kids to learn? Well, yeah, we want them to learn some stuff. We want them to learn a lot of stuff, but they are not going to learn unless they're having fun. And these are some of the fun activities. And so Pat said, should everyone have received a packet? No, actually, I believe I only sent out 28 packets. Those were the folks that had registered by about May 22nd, because I had to go shop. I had to go pack. I had to, and it's just me, you guys. I have a few helpers, but I had to do all that. So I believe Jessica and Beth Kerr are going to be getting my extra 2 packs. I have to undo this guy right here to get them. But yeah, it was, we needed to get those to them. But all of these activities are in the Junior Master Gardener curriculum.